fourth panel discussion at the Managing Sustainable Transitions in Agriculture, as well as the valedictory function of this three-day event. So today we have a panel discussion on a very important topic on deepening and scaling natural farming transitions. The session will be moderated by G Muralidhar. So I'd like to request our panelists to kindly join us on the stage. Jayen Mehta ji, the Managing Director of GCMMF. Aye Jayen ji, Mehta ji. Murli, you can accompany him. So some of you don't know, both of them are batchmates from IRMA's. Oh, senior, okay. We'll make you batchmates. It's been so many years, so as good as batchmates. From one of the senior batches of IRMA. We're also happy to have Ajay Vir Jakhar from the Bharatiya Krishak Sangh. Gayatri Lobo from the ATE Chandra Foundation. Deepak Chamola from GIZ. Pramel Gupta from the National Coalition for Natural Farming. And Shri SM Vijayanand, a great friend of IRMA, has been on our board and the Secretary of Rural Development. Welcome, sir. He's joining us from Trivandrum. So, before I hand over the proceedings to Muralidhar for interesting discussion that we will be having in the next hour and a half, I'd like to take this opportunity to release the Gujarati version of the NRAS, or the Network of Rural and Agrarian Studies report on state of rural and agrarian India. So I'd like to invite Vasavi and Richa from NRAS and Himanshu, who's helped with the translation, to kindly join us on the dais, and we'll just take a minute and a photo shoot of the report. Please come. And I request all our members on the dais to kindly stand up and, hold the copy. Please come. Buy your copies. Yeah, some of us. Thank you very much. We just got the copies today from Ahmedabad. There are several copies here. Those of you who are interested can pick up a copy. With these few words, I'd like to now hand it over to Muralidhar to carry forward the panel discussion. Over to you, Murli.
Good afternoon. This is a very distinguished panel. Thank you very much for the time and energy of the people here. We spent some time, about 90 minutes, on how do you go about scaling and deepen natural farming transitions. That is the focus of the panel. We have with us, including me, 7 people. Mr. Vijayanand is Secretary, Panchayat Raj, Government of India, Chief Secretary, Kerala, Chairman Pradhan, Steering Committee Member, National Coalition for Natural Farming. He is joining us on the Zoom electronically. Then we have my friend Jayen Mehta, MD GCMMF Amul. Then we have Gayatri Lobo, who is the Chief Operating Officer of ATE Chandra Foundation. She is from the philanthropic world. Then we have Ajay Jakhar, who is the President of BKS, Bharatiya Kisan Sangathan, from Punjab. You will tell us about, as an example, state Punjab and what can be done there and what can be done in the country, taking examples from Punjab and around. Then we'll have Deepak Chamola. He is the representative from GIZ. He has been with GIZ for 13 years. He is advisor on the natural resource management and agroecology. So, and he's also been working with the FPOs for a long time. So he will tell us what works in taking NF to scale. Pramel is the CEO, national anchor of National Coalition for Natural Farming. He will tell how NCNF, civil society, organizations can take us NF to scale. So that's the panel before us today. And I'm a student of IRMA long time ago, 35 years ago. And I co-lead and mentor Andhra Pradesh Community Managed Natural Farming. I was earlier at NRLM. I also co-lead a new academy that is coming up. Has come up, Indo-German Global Academy for Agroecology Research and Learning. Obviously, we are looking for a new director. Hopefully, soon we get one. So that's the background of the panel. The context of the natural farming in the country is something like this. There are multiple crises. Crisis at the level of the farmer, crisis at the level of the consumer, crisis at the level of the soil, at the level of the plant and animal health, at the level of the planet health. So crises are, variety of crises are there. The planet is hotting up, warming up. Another half a degree more, people say disaster is going to fall maybe 30 years later, 40 years later. Time is running out. So, and fortunately there is a solution. Our set of solutions, they are extremely cost effective. Probably in 30, 40 years, we can do reasonable postponement of the disaster, maybe a couple of 100 years, 300 years postponement is possible. So if you do something that to be done, it's cost effective, and the solution is also very interesting, a mixture of tradition and frontier science. It is not totally tradition, not totally new science. It's a mixture of the two, tradition and science coming together, cutting edge science helping us in taking this forward. So this is broadly known as natural farming, agroecology, regenerative agriculture. So this is the solution. So in this fundamental line this line is no synthetic chemical, 365-day green cover, multi-layered, multiple cropping system. That is the broad line of this solution. It is the equivalent of achadana in the Palekar's language, achana, third wheel of Palekar. We use bioinoculants, stimulants. We use go beyond farming to say integrate trees into it, integrate animals into it, and we go beyond private lands to include landscapes in the long run. So that's the direction of the flow. We move towards local value chains from only feeding the market. We feed ourselves, feed the surplus to local neighborhoods, local towns, and then beyond. So that's the kind of a direction. Resilience is there. Ecosystem services are happening. They require to be paid. Costs are coming down. Yields are not compromised. Returns are increasing. Cropping intensity can go up from 1.25 to beyond 2, beyond 3. Land equivalent ratio is doubling up. Unfallowing can happen if you take up natural farming. Consumer demand is there. People are wanting this, but they don't know whether the right thing is available or not. Nutrition is better with natural farming produce. Nutrient intensity is higher, nutrient density is higher. Models are available and they are localizable, customizable. There are champions, there are best practices, good numbers, may not be in crores what we want, at least thousands may have, already there. Enterprises are coming up, collectives are coming up, brands are coming, platforms are coming. One problem still we have, people may go back. People may go back. How to prevent that, lapsing back? Curriculums need to change, policies need to be changed, budgets need to be supportive. Then extension systems have to be supporting this. Double tongue, triple tongue of the governments have to change. Agency needs to be amplified. Agency of the women, agency of the marginal small farmers needs to be amplified further. And some kind of a global movement is happening at local levels. So that's the kind of scenario. This is a kind of scenario. If I had to put the vision of this scaling by 2047, Amrit Kal Samay, 80% of Indian food system has to be natural, organic, agroecological. 80% of a farmland has to be natural. So this is the kind of a vision possibility. And today 1% of India, 0.5% of the world is agroecological or natural. 20 lakh hectares probably all over the country put together. Small program is there in the country, NMNF, a token budget is available. PM Pranam is there. They're saying government of India can subsidize or give the subsidies saved to the states. So that's the reality today. My guess is universe will conspire, people will conspire, world will conspire, actors will conspire, and 80% of this is a truth possible in the coming 25 years. So this is the context. In this context, I would like to ask my first panelist, Ajay Jakhar, this wish has to be true. If this wish has to be true, taking Punjab as an example, can we really do this on scale? What is coming in our way? What can be done about it? Over to you, sir. Thank you. You can use both ways. 5 minutes. I'll request you to take 5 to 6 minutes, sir. Yeah.
So it's a wonderful work, conference of thoughtful ideas, and I'm humbled to be here amongst so many who know so much that I'll never be able to reach that knowledge base. But it's a learning experience. Thank you to the organizers for this opportunity. We face this poly crisis, and how do we scale up? Because like we said, we're not going to go into why we got here, how we got here, because that's an endless discussion. But some ideas on why there is not enough traction for the transformation. We are talking about scaling up. I'm trying to say that there is still not enough traction for the transformation. If we look at the challenges, I think the biggest challenge scaling up or a transformation takes place is convincing policymakers, convincing Niti Aayog, convincing Ministry of Agriculture, convincing those who decide policy, those who make policy, those who influence policy, that it is possible to feed the world without adversely impacting food security and food inflation. That remains the biggest challenge, I think. On the realization that farmers grow a crop because market signals tell them to grow a crop, guide them, or government policy incentives tell them to grow a particular crop in a particular way. And that becomes more important when we come to Punjab. Farmers also, because government incentivizes urea, then farmers put more urea. So how government incentivizes farmers is what creates a hurdle towards this transformation that we are looking at. Young farmers, children of farmers don't want to do this farming. Natural farming involves possibly less mechanization, more drudgery, more kind of work that they don't want to do. These days, anyone who's gone for education, which I'm differentiating from learning because education is just a degree, wants a desk job. Nobody wants to work on the farm. So if you have to try and sell him an idea where he has to work with his hands on the farm and create a living out of it, it is a difficult proposition. Farmer unions, I think, are a big hurdle for a transformation because farmer union leaders today are into the same space as politicians into competitive populism because they are competing with other farmer union leaders. Every state has so many farmer union leaders that no farmer union leader, even if convinced about the transformation, will bring it up in a public forum because he is worried that he will lose his base within his own or her own farmer union. So they are also not supportive, and they are also, I would count them as an hindrance to this transformation to natural farming. Politicians will not invest in a policy which could be detrimental for their political futures. And that's, I mean, I'm trying to give these points in very simple, straightforward bullet points because these are challenges that normally one does not put out when they come out with research papers. I don't know, maybe there's a point that you don't cross. Governance mechanisms tend to work in silos. environment works separately, food security works separately, agriculture works separately. Normally, departments, with my experience in states, is that even within a state, different departments don't talk to each other. Everyone has different objectives. Quality of inputs available for those trying to transact to natural farming are also not available. Quality produce is not available, it's not standardized, procedures are not standardized. And it's not necessary that every farmer will create all his bio inputs required for the farm on the farm itself in the first few years. He may do it at a later stage, but I don't think so. When a farmer starts to transform to such a thing, he will want these bio inputs, and there's no quality standards or availability of produce in the market. What can we do to scale up? I think one of the few things that I've written down is that we need trainers to train farmers to farm better, and trainers who are not emotional about the subject. You know, you have lots of people who are dealing with organic and natural farming. They are more philosophical, they're more into ideology than into the science of why some transformation is happening. So as Ramoji had said in the before lunch session, that we need these trainers, and these trainers, I think so, let's say in Andhra Pradesh or Telangana, I think when they come and work in Punjab, they'll need to be trained on Punjab's agroecology. It's not necessary that you can pick up somebody trained in Andhra Pradesh and Telangana and put him in Punjab, Haryana, Rajasthan, and it will succeed. So it's a longer, slower process of change. Then we need ground proofing of ideas. So when they said, like when you visited farms in Punjab and you said, ki zero drill, no crop burning, you know, he's using let's say a super seeder or a machine to sow crops, and it's very successful. So the first question I used to ask is, why isn't your neighbor doing it? Because, you know, as a farmer, I feel that a neighbor will employ practices and work that your neighbor, if he sees a neighbor succeeding in it, it'll be easier for him to follow that practice. So we need ground proofing. So my suggestion, I mean, I'm trying to give suggestions on scaling up now, is so there must be around 7,000 blocks in the country. I think every block, the government has to fund 5 or 10 farmers who could be, or development plots where such experiments could take place. We need to spread it to all the blocks of the country, because every block will have its own agroecology and will need a separate kind of help. We need evidence-based data and case studies from across regions. We need to build this institutional mechanism of giving support to farmers, having trainers, constantly train farmers on the task, and it can't be left to the state governments or the agriculture universities, because they're not, the mindset, forget tune, forget capacity, forget even financing is available, the mindset is not convinced on this. When you look at RySS, when you talk to Vijay Kumarji, when you talk to others who are in natural farming, which is a little different, or zero budget farming, what you naturally find is that most proponents will talk about either you're doing it or you're not doing it. Like, they don't talk about a pathway, a step-by-step approach, which I think for scaling up is a better way to do it. Rather than say that a farm will go from chemical farming to organic farming and then for 4 years there's a transition, I would propose for scaling up, for more people to get on board, is to have an approach where you say we'll reduce chemicals by 10-15%, we'll start adding, you know, farmyard manure and other things. So these pathways will have to be designed. We also need to get ways to finance it and get private capital involved with organic farming. We can't be saying that this is, corporates cannot get into this, in the sense of maybe procurement, they can, I'll just 1 minute. So we need to get them also. We need to design a matrix for payment for ecosystem services for different places if we need to move away from this. So there's no research happening in that. And we need alternate markets as a last suggestion. We need alternate markets, because in a natural farming paradigm, you will be growing many crops together. It could be intercropping, it could be one plot, it could be a plot divided into 3-4 different crops. And that produce will come into the market. Today, market and marketplaces are tuned to buy in one product at one time because of monoculture. Markets open up. If you're doing carrots, if you're doing other produce with it, then there may be no market for the carrots. There's a market for only paddy at that time. So those questions come up. We need to find the low-hanging fruit, actually. and we need to identify the bottlenecks. Bottlenecks identification is not difficult. Finding the low-hanging fruit is an issue. And coming to Punjab, let me just finish with Punjab. I think so there are 4 or 5 things that are required. One is stopping unmetered supply of free electricity to farmers. I mean, every electricity connection needs to be metered. Limiting supply of free electricity to small farmers and marginal farmers, not giving it to large farmers, big farmers, limiting the supply. Like it's in a way trying to say making it paddy more expensive to grow for many kinds of people. Limiting free power connections to 1 per family. I know people in Punjab who have 5 connections in one family, and many don't have connections. So these are political decisions. Also, we got to, this whole idea about how do you reduce crop burning is like focusing on the tree and not seeing the forest around it. The idea of crop burning doesn't stop by what kind of machines or in situ, ex situ, all these applications. These are secondary arguments that newspapers and everyone takes up. The focus has to be on reducing paddy on the ground. And how do you reduce paddy on the ground? Because it's incentivized by the central government. I would propose as a package that open-ended procurement of paddy should end. And it should be replaced with incentives for small farmers who fit the criteria of not owning more than 5 acres of land or fall under the PM Kisan category. And for such people transacting 2 crops other than paddy, then the government can give insurance where they pay 100% of the premium. Farmers are not required to pay insurance premium. That could be price insurance. That could be production insurance, premium for that. And farmers could do a transfer, like Haryana gives 7,000 rupees per acre. But the union government, because Punjab is a bankrupt state, they won't have money to give. So I propose that what Punjab does is, it works on the electricity. What the union government does is, it works on incentives for the shift. But we can take up other questions later.
Thank you.
So that's how it is.
Thank you, Ajay. I cut you short. I request Shri Vijayanand sir, I would like you to tell us whether this will work, sir, this scaling out will work. If it has to work, what is that Government of India has to do, state governments have to do, local governments have to do, and civil society has to do. So if you are able to tell us that, we'll be very happy, sir.
Thank you. Sorry for not being able to come physically. First is your idea of deepening and scaling up. It's a necessity from an ecological point of view, nutrition point of view, farmer security point of view, from all points of view. That's my learning from Andhra Pradesh. I've been there 2-3 times physically to see that, and that's my thing. But I must also tell you, it's a depressingly poor performance of state and government of India. They've been all speaking and speaking and speaking, but the real signal I have not seen anywhere that yes, we want this. So this all some jumla is happening. That's a sad thing, but that's very important. The learnings from AP, only AP. Of course, Sikkim has also gone organic. The learnings from AP, particularly the state ownership when it started and when the government changed, and of course the autonomous mission. And Vijay Kumar was with me for a long time. T. Vijay Kumar is not substitutable, but he's a key leadership. Is again critical. So political decision, a small window of opportunity, and a system to carry it out with sufficient autonomy is the big lesson from Andhra Pradesh. And of course, the work of CSOs, which I come to know through the meetings of NCNF, is very encouraging. I must say, very encouraging. Maybe the CSOs one-to-one would be quite disappointed at the lack of progress, I know, but it is encouraging. And so we need to keep it moving till the big change comes. That's the important task we have to do. The CSOs, the SRLMs have a big role. But something which I find is the CSS mode is not good for this. The CSS has become quite rigid these days, and Government of India, sorry for saying that, takes a top-down approach. Yes. Yeah, CSS centrally sponsored scheme. That is your PKVY and DPKT and all that. So Government of India looks down upon the states and asks you to do direct this, right? That's not the way to convey it. I was in Delhi in Ministry of Rural Development and Panchayat Raj for 4 years. The way you do it is quite different. Anyway, I'm not critiquing that. And then, you may not agree with me, the Agriculture Ministry and the state agriculture department cannot be dispensed with. Ultimately, till they own, that's how our governance structure is there, till they own and push, it will really not take off as we want. So what we can do is feed them with evidence, but balanced evidence. In the sense, these are the problems, these are the failures, these are the successes. So we need a kind of strategies, a bunch of strategies which the state can do. And we can learn a lot of lessons from NRLM in the 2010, 12, 13 and the Gram Panchayat Development Plan in 2015, where Government of India worked painstakingly on equal footing with the states and didn't try to, of course, GPDP was whole of the country, but NRLM was resource block strategy. And you move very slowly. That there's a Chinese thing called crossing the river, feeling the stones. So that was a strategy, but we need to work with blocks and take it forward. And so that's a big lesson which we have to learn. And then, of course, I mentioned Agricultural University, the importance of ICAR and their associate agencies. They also give contradictory kind of statements and come out with reports which are not very supportive. They are very, very critical, as also the agricultural universities at the state level. Here, the state government has a big role. Andhra Pradesh, I sometimes marvel at the wisdom of politicians in the initial stages when the agriculture university protested that we don't have a package of practices. I understand that Mr. Chandrababu Naidu told them, yes, you do concurrent research. You don't have to prepare a package and then start the whole thing afresh, which may take 20 years. But nothing prevents you from starting from day one, whether it's positive, negative, what are the positives, what are the shortcomings. So that concurrent research concept needs to be sold to the agriculture university. Now coming to the CSOs, I think a good number of you would be CSOs. A great lesson is from the SRI. Now I am now a CSO, I chair Pradhan. So Pradhan is now in a big way got into what they call regenerative agriculture. So the SRI thing was built from below. And that kind of proof of concept CSOs can do, of course, in different parts of India for different crops. Andhra Pradesh has its own agro ecosystems, but for different parts, as was mentioned, Punjab and others, we can develop. And very importantly, networking and advocacy. I worked in Delhi, I worked in RD, I worked in Panchayat Raj. Sorry for being little frank, NGOs have an identity fairly valid, but you should not have an ego. It's very difficult for NGOs to cooperate. So when you're able to differentiate between identity and ego, then you can cooperate, which is something I am advocating very strongly, and Pradhan has kind of got into it, and we will cooperate, we'll work together with different NGOs. Then I would suggest, since it's IRMA, probably you are the most credible institution in the country to conduct a nationwide study on the plus minus struggles, strategical issues and administrative issues. It will be a great boon to pushing this beyond that point. When NRLM was set up, there was a committee, and I don't expect a committee now. That committee only gave a report, and that came out. That studied the Andhra model, Kerala model. And basically, it's a combination of the Andhra and Kerala model. And as I said, Media Connect. We are doing some media. I know I get a lot of these documents, but Media Connect is quite weak. Not with the big papers, publishing it, critiquing it, and all that. And gently compare. There are a lot of red herrings. For example, in Kerala, suddenly the agriculture minister went to Andhra Pradesh. He came out with a clear action plan, and then somebody brought in the idea of carbon neutral agriculture. So the whole thing got diverted. So this is happening in many states. Somebody will come out with something and it will not, it'll get. Then the recent decisions of Himachal Pradesh and Karnataka, very political decisions, probably they didn't understand. That's why they took a political decision. And in Kerala, there was a statement that this is Hindutva agriculture. It's one way of finishing it off in Kerala by a very, very eminent academic, not an ordinary politician. So these kind of uninformed statements and things, we should only CSOs can very gently, you don't take them on, come back. And then coming to the basic thing, coming to that, clarity on the concept of natural farming. There's so many varieties, conflicts. The first question the APC of Kerala asked in a meeting where I was there, She asked, tell me the difference between organic farming and natural farming. So as was mentioned, let us not be too rigid, but we need the broad contours. We can't say organic farming is equivalent to natural farming. I do know the difference. This is not the time to listen. And also, some of the CSOs, I don't know where any such CSO is with you, they take extreme positions, not only in farming, in life also. For example, many of the active CSOs, small CSOs in Kerala or natural farming, doing outstanding work on their own without any government support, suddenly decided to campaign against vaccination. And these kind of things will get you in quite an embarrassing situation in policy and all that. So those kind of things. And as was mentioned, there's a big thing which we have forgotten since the Buddhist days, dialogues. Not ordinary small dialogues like this conference, large dialogues, maybe for days together with the farmers groups, the scientists and the activists. It will be very messy, but things will come out. Churning will be there, things will be thrown up. The big farmers and the organization, I know they all have their interest. I followed the farmers agitation very, very closely, and some of my friends were also associated with it. But we need to do that. This is the time. Now we have enough evidence to tell them, they have enough concerns to tell us, and we can do. Now let me conclude by the new possibilities. The biggest possibility which Government of India, that's Ministry of Panchayat Raj and Ministry of Rural Development are pushing, the SHG GP convergence. So the institutional convergence, which will bring in massive resource convergence. The 15th Finance Commission gave a very handsome, it's more than 3 lakh crore for the panchayats, plus Narega will be around 70-80,000 crores per year. So it's a huge kind of thing, bulk of which goes to agriculture, or can go to agriculture, not the GPDP, only a small percentage will go. So once you get the panchayats interested, and the SHGs work with them, and the learnings from Andhra Pradesh, I don't have to repeat because you would have gone through it. So your resource convergence and the VPRP GPD. Many of you may not know the VPRP. It used to be called Village Poverty Reduction Plan by the SHGs. Now I think they are renaming it as Village Poverty and Resilience Plans. I don't know, it's been formally reset. But whatever, they still have a VPRP. And GPDP is a Gram Panchayat Development Plan, where farmers can go and have a say in a small way, not the entire Gram Panchayat, as Andhra did. Let the farmer move at a pace convenient to him or her. That's the approach. And probably localizing SDGs. That is a big agenda of both the ministries. This can push natural farming to a large degree. I was in a VC yesterday with T. Vijay Kumar. He said that natural farming itself can contribute to several SDGs, which has not been much written about or discussed, probably that. Then to the activists, I work very closely with Arna Roy, and I am now the chair of School for Democracy, which is an organization for these kind of things. There are a lot of lessons from the National Campaign for People's Right to Information. And if you have time, read Arna Roy's book on RTI, fairly large book, but that will tell you how, without being confrontational, civil society, small action can build up a massive movement which results in a very, very fundamental law. So my hope is that, to borrow from Dr. Swaminathan, a bottom-up evergreen revolution. He called it evergreen revolution, but it's a bottom-up. I don't expect a top-down bottom-up. There's a reversal, but a very, very important thing. I got into service in 81, but I could relate to the people who were in the 50s and 60s. They were still working. The government had a great capacity through what is then called extension, which got different changes now. We call it BCC, IEC, a lot of names are there. Extension is something which we need to reinvent in the modern context. And I think IRMA probably will be in an ideal position. So there's a lot of hope. I'm optimistic, which is why I came and talked to you. But we should not ignore the powerful vested interests which are there behind opposing. Wish you all the best, and I assure you my support for whatever it's worth. And for your information, Pradhan has now scaled it up substantially. It has presence in 11,000 villages. Thank you. Thank you for giving me this opportunity.
Yeah, thank you very much, sir. You have given us the bottom-up situation in the governments and what can be possible, what can be taken forward. We take messages from this and see what can be done about that, sir. Thank you very
So
much.
thank you. I'll take you.
Thank you, sir. I know that you are leaving the
Yes. I have
call.
some other
Thank you very much, sir.
engagement. Bye.
Okay, sir. Thank you. Yeah, now my panelist 3, Gayatri. I am asking you, is this a ambitious or a plan or a mirage, or are we pursuing something real? And are we wasting time, are we wasting energy, are we wasting resources, or is there a possibility? What CSOs can do and what CSR and philanthropists can do to support them? And is there any way you can magnify, amplify the work of governments and consumers in favor of this?
Are we ambitious? Yes, but I think we should be. Because this is not an impossible task. It's a hard task, as you rightly said. But I think the gains far outweigh the challenges that we will face to get there. The question is, how do we get there, and what do we, as philanthropists, and I'm counting philanthropists different from CSRs, and I'll explain why. So what can we do to alleviate some of that stress or those challenges, and what can we do to amplify, as you said, the work that CSOs and government is doing on the ground? I think I think as Mr. Vijayanand very rightly said, there are vested interests in this, which makes it even more challenging. Vested interests, unfortunately, with loud voices and very deep pockets. Having said that, I think there is work cut out for all of us. The advantage that philanthropies have as opposed to CSR is that we can take risks. Right? CSRs are, for two reasons. One, they are bound by several restrictions on what they can do, what they can't do, and they are very strict in how they implement that. And two, at the end of the day, they are answerable to their shareholders. Government can't take risks because they're answerable to the citizens of the country, or rather they should be answerable to the citizens of this country. So who can then take that risk? And I think that burden, if you want to call it that, or that responsibility lies with philanthropies. There are a lot of things that government can pay for, and in the recent past we've seen that there is interest in stepping in there. So with the new schemes coming up, with PM Pradhan, with the national mission, whenever these things get rolled out, at least you can see some momentum now in that direction. There will be other areas that we can identify that government could perhaps also pay for, but they may not be ready for immediately. That's where philanthropy can come in. We've done this in other work. We've done this in the foundation itself. We've done this in some of our work in water. We funded it philanthropically, and we were rejuvenating water bodies. We did about 700-800 ourselves. Now government is spending all of the money. We are supporting the implementation through CSOs. So we pay CSOs, government pays for implementation. So for us, it is a reality that can easily happen with natural farming as well. We need to bring in the money in the right places. So I think two things we need to do systematically. One is build out almost like a business model for natural farming. If you want to do this, and we start from your vision, right? 80% by 2047. To get that, what does a transition mean to today? What are the spends that will be required by different actors in our business model? Where can money come in already, whether from government, whether from potential government schemes that we can lobby for, where consumer prices can go back to farmers without too much getting cut off. So map all of that and then say, okay, now we have X 100 crores over the next so many years where philanthropy has to come in. We then bring in philanthropists. I know Min's already working on some of that, but bring in philanthropists to then support those particular causes. It could be, like Mr. Vijayanand said, on some cutting edge national level research. Government's not going to pay for that, consumers aren't going to pay for that, we can pay for that. It could be around creating media attention to it. Again, a CSR can never pay for media, but we can. So identifying what those are and creating a case saying, this is the amount of money, and the multiplier effect that it will have is why, and therefore putting in this money makes sense. It may not happen, but if you don't do it, it will not happen. So I think that narrative is what we need to take to philanthropists, and we of course will put all of our weight to support that.
No, the point that came up is we require something like a Bombay plan for natural farming. Let us see. But philanthropists can do that, and APCN is a good example. When nothing was there, Azim Premji came and said, we will give you 100 crores, do whatever, but program money you have to get on your own. So program money we got from governments, but support and initiating, pushing it happened from technical support from philanthropy. It's possible. So my next panelist is Jayen. Jayen, yeah. First I want to ask you, is this possible? If that is possible, can markets trigger this transformation, scaling up happening? And particularly when they are going to be natural farming means multiple commodities, not one commodity like the previous situation, multiple commodities all around the year, may not meet all the needs of the consumers at the same time, but how do you go about handling it? But will the producers, will the collectives of the farmers, will the enterprise of the farmers, will they benefit in the long run? Are the brands will work? Are certificates necessary? Do you have to live with this problem? Or is there any way out? So these are my questions to on the value chains for you. You take 7-8 minutes? Yeah.
No, I would like to run away actually. Sir, is ragging allowed in the campus? I just mentioned he's my senior, and he's asking me the most difficult questions. Okay, distinguished panelists and esteemed experts both on and off the stage, and my dear friends. Thank you, Murli, for hosting this event and inviting me here, and thank you, IRMA, for conducting this. I think it's the right time, right place, and maybe at the end of this session, or 3 days, we should have an honest declaration of what you have in mind and the vision that you have. The 80-20 rule reminds me of a question that who's the 20% who's not going to do actually? Because in 1947, when we got independence, 100% was practically natural farming. So if you're looking at only 80 and the glass is half full or less full. But that also reminds me of a marketing quote by I think John Waymaker, who said that half the money I spend on advertising is wasted, and I don't know which half. Okay. So, but still, as believers of the business and the practitioners of the art and marketing, which is the question you rightly asked with, is that if we believe in something, you need to continue to do it, irrespective of what the end results can be. The 80 can become 85, it can become 75. But end of the day, you address this problem from a consumer's point of view, I think the transition will become much faster. And I'll start with this. Murli, in his talk, and Professor also talked about all the 4 issues of this. One is the consumer, one is the producer, third is the soil, fourth is the government, and the entire things which we have all worried about addressing this particular issue. But let's start with the consumers. And all of us are consumers. And if somebody tells you that the food that we eat is full of pesticides and the lead content is multiple times higher than it and the heavy metals are very, very scary, I mean, all of us will be worried. Because end of the day, without worrying more about the planet, more about the soil, more about the farmer, more about ecology, environment, anything else, we are more worried about ourselves. And that's how we are all wired towards it, because we all want to live a happy and a healthy life. And the fact remains that with the very, very rampant use of pesticides, overuse of fertilizers, and Nimit was sharing the data with me from 40, 60, 80 kg per hectare to 400 kg per hectare of fertilizer use, chemical fertilizer used in big states, which Ajay ji is representing. So things are actually not very good. And consumer awareness that way will become very, very important. If you have, I mean, like in milk, we used to say that if you want to convert a person from a loose to a package branded product, we said apna doodh leke aana, have it tested, kitna isme pani hai, kitna adulteration hai, kitna fat SNF hai, you are paying the right price for it and not. And it was very easy to convince a housewife to shift from a loose and unbranded milk to a package branded milk, and that's how we've seen a dramatic increase in the dairy industry fortunes also. More milk getting into the organized sector, consumers getting good quality milk, and it's an overall improvement sector. So this is where we need to be looking at, we need to be conscious of, we need to be creating awareness of. in marketing, there is a serious point because you are also scaring the customers. Okay. On the other side, you are also educating the customers. So we'll have to find a way out how to go about doing it. But the way forward to this is an educated customer. And if a customer who is educated, he or she, I mean, let's start with the housewife, because no housewife will like to feed very inferior quality food, unsafe food to her children and the family. And this is where the job of marketing will come in, the job of brands will come in, the job of consumer awareness will come in, and which means you are sending a positive signal to the farmer, okay, hey, Mr. Farmer, why don't you switch over to this? And these are the tools and techniques available for you to convert from a chemical-based or pesticide-based agriculture to natural and organic fertilizer, organic farming with use of biofertilizers. And there is an ecosystem which is being created which is going to help you do that. So that brings us to the next point, which is the farmers, and then showing and linking the production with the consumption, or a producer with the consumer, will actually bring in an increase in not just the awareness, but the output also, and the opportunities also at both ends of the spectrum. The soil, of course, is a reason we should be worrying about this, because it is not a question of 80% or 20%, but after 25 years, what will be the quality of our soil should be a matter which should worry all 1.4 or 1.5 billion Indians we would be at this point of time. Because if you don't have a good quality soil, if the carbon content in the soil is not very good, then we are all in for a bigger problem. And that problem is more about our, not just the livelihood of the farmers, but also nourishment of the countrymen and the dependence on imports, and many other factors can play in, but let's not worry about that. But this is an area we should be worrying about right now to avoid that kind of a thing. And of course, the policy and the government and the rest of the things will fall in place if the producer and consumers are aligned. And I believe that is why brands have come in this place. Amul also got into this space, and actually by realizing the gravity of the problem and possibly trying to be a part of the solution, we have got into this space. But what more importantly I want to tell you is not just Amul or a small endeavor that we are doing in this space of creating a brand which consumers would trust, which is say 100% certified organic, which is pesticide free, which means basically you buy products from a certified farmer, test the product, the raw material in the lab, only when it is free from all the chemical, so the pesticides and the heavy metals and so on and so forth. We would process it in a certified plant, and then before the batch is released in the market, it is also tested and then is put in the market. So the trust of the consumer is very, very important, because in the name of organics, you find a lot of products being sold. And we test all these. We have set up our own organic product testing lab, and we know how bad the situation is, even for branded organic products. So this is where again, our role will come into educating the customers, which an Amul people for most of the products and every product that we sell otherwise is a blindly purchased product, because they know what Amul claims and offers will be exactly what it is going to be in the pack. So this is what we are going to do, and this is how we are going to do this. But only Amul or individual states or individual farmer groups cannot do this. You need a mechanism or an organization or a structured way of carrying forward this mission. And there cannot be any other form better than a cooperative. So using this model of the Amul model of Farmers Collective, the new Ministry of Cooperation, and a couple of years back, as you are aware, a new Ministry of Cooperation has been formed at the central level. The Home Minister of India is also the first Minister of Cooperation, who is personally very, very passionate about India and Indians eating a pesticide-free, chemical fertilizer-free food. And out of his conviction of bringing in a grassroots movement, starting from the bottom up to the market end, a new organization, a new multi-state cooperative has been formed, which is called the National Cooperative Organics Limited. Two other multi-state cooperatives have also been formed, one with the purpose of exports of the products of the cooperative, which is National Multi-State Cooperative on Exports, and the third one is on Multi-State Cooperative on Seeds. I'll talk about the exports and seeds later if time permits, but let's focus on the organic part. So what he did was he put together 7, 8 top cooperatives of the country, which is Amul, NDDB, IFCO, CRIPCO, NAFED, National Consumer Cooperative Federation, and NCDC. And between 7-8 of us, we are incubating and promoting these 3 new multi-state cooperatives. So in case of multi-state cooperative of organics, it's NDDB, Amul, and then we have CRIPCO, we have National Consumer Cooperative Federation and NCDC coming together, each pooling in 20 crore rupees in the initial share capital. This makes 100 crores, and total capital of this is 500 crore rupees. And every single cooperative in the country who is interested in this directly or indirectly has been invited to become a member. So here you have players who are not just playing an advisory or consultative role. You are having everybody having their skin in the game, working and coming in as investor, and then trying to work on this organic mission right from the farm to the market level. You are not compromising on quality standards. You are looking at only certified products, because it will give a window of opportunity not just in India but across the world. So if you have a quality certified product, you have a market opportunity for the entire world, because end of the day the mission is also to see that farmers' income increase as much as the consumers get benefit out of that. Amul of course will play its own role with its own brand as well as the brand of this cooperative, which is called Bharat Organics, in building the trust and more importantly democratizing organics. And housewife, as I mentioned earlier, is very conscious about the quality of the food she feeds. But she is also very acutely concerned about the budget and trying to make the ends meet. But if you get a good certified quality safe product, which is also affordable, I'm sure you will be able to get and market and build on that market opportunity. So having said and done that, we have already got onto this task. This new multi-state cooperative has already been registered. It has started working. And we hope that with more than 2,000 members already now on board and another about 15-20,000 expected, this is a movement which is going to take shape and take pace into development into this entire space. And we are talking not just of marketing or production, we are talking of hand-holding, certification, training, and aggregation, processing, and building a marketplace. And as Murli, it's not just 1 or 2 items, it is every single food item. And this is where this can be an opportunity for all of us as consumers to be able to get access to good quality chemical fertilizer and pesticide-free product. But more importantly, assure our producers, assure our farmers that there are consumers waiting for your products. There is a market not just in India, but around the world. And if you jump into it, if you deep dive into it, if you take the trouble of feeding the food, actually what you are eating to the consumers, this again is a very big issue, and we should realize that farmers know very clearly that half the food they are producing is not even fit for their own consumption. So this is that awareness, this is that sensitization, and this is what the market opportunity we have to show to them. Build this bridge, connect the producer with the consumers, and I'm sure all what has happened, and Murli and his team, I'm sure has been doing a lot of work, and we've been understanding and studying that also. Many states are very actively about it. The governor of our own state of Gujarat is very, very passionate about it. So we are having leaders, we are having voices, we are having opinion makers, we are having the media also, fortunately, on our side to actually do this work. And with seminars like this, with events like this, I'm sure we will be able to trigger a very, very massive change in the country. And I hope that all of us will be playing the role of the change maker. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Jayen. I think yours is critical, and you said certification we have to leave it some more time. Okay. My next panelist is Deepak. Deepak is from GIZ. So my question to you is, all these schemes and all these possibilities you have seen, but do the FPOs can play an important role in this process of scaling up and deepening? That's one question. And the second question I wanted to ask you is this enough? We require 5 lakh to 6 lakh crores to do this transition. That's the minimum. It may be much more and much longer. But what else needs to be done? What else needs to be done? Yeah, thank you.
Thank you, Murli ji. When you are participating in the last session, you have 2 benefits. One is almost everything is covered. Whatever you want to communicate has already been covered. The second thing is most of the participant has already left. So you expect less question at the end. So considering all these facts, I have few points to add on. Although there are number of successes across India around agroecology or natural farming, number of CSOs have done a good job. And also Government of India is coming out in different scheme and allocating fund for natural farming. So time is good. So what more can be done? So first point, as what comes to my mind is integration of natural farming and agroecology in existing scheme. I can give one example. Muraliji in earlier basically speech mentioned about Jiva program of NABARD. So Jiva is a very interesting program where NABARD is trying to overlay natural farming in their existing watershed and tribal development projects. So what are watershed and watershed projects? Watershed projects are basically projects where conservation of water and soil is done through various measures, including they create number of asset, gully plug, pond digging and everything, so that groundwater can be improved. Now, and tribal development projects are basically in tribal area, they develop orchards so that tribal farmers can get income out of that. So what they are doing under this Jiva program is that they are integrating around 8-9 different components, including component related to crop diversity, soil enhancement, enhancing farmer-led extension in the field, and they have also allocated some budget. So currently it is in pilot phase, and in 24 projects in 11 states basically are being implemented. And GIZ is also supporting specifically towards capacity building, knowledge management and all. So this is one part. Along with this, various schemes like Pradhan Mantri Matsya Sampada Yojana, where around 20,000 crore is being allocated for next 3 years until I think 2024, 24 and 25. So wherever fund is there, I think we need to link natural farming and agroecology towards basically linking these agroecology towards those schemes and fund. Similarly, as sir was mentioning, NRLM, lots of livelihood related activities are being taken up under this state livelihood mission. So how we can link natural farming, although I think MORD has also basically allocated some budget and doing lots of activities around natural farming, but even various CSOs can also basically think how they can integrate with these initiatives. And then even regarding extension, because capacity building is again a area where lots of work needs to be done. So and whether it is Department of Agriculture, they have Krishi Mitras or Krishi Sakhi. Similarly, Animal Husbandry Department has Pashu Sakhi, Fishery Department has Matsya Mitra. So all these cadre needs to be basically strengthened with agroecological input or natural farming related input. So we have, we can develop basically extension mechanism in existing system. So this is one. Regarding marketing, lots of basically points have already been covered. I would like to add few more points, like I was also looking into literature, what all models are there in promoting natural farming, or specifically organic farming or agroecology related models across India. So I have come up with few points. Like creation of network of organization like NGO, farmers, market players, financier can aggregate and collaborate in a manner so that a win-win situation can happen for all these stakeholders. So there are some example. Brazil, Ecovida is working on that. In Colombia, Familia da Tierra is working in this area. Similarly, how we can also promote consumer cooperatives in urban area or maybe in rural areas where people are there, they want good quality food. So these consumer cooperative can be linked with farmers or maybe farmer organization, and there are some example if we see. Similarly, consumer awareness, sir has already mentioned, so I will not basically go into it, but definitely establishing traceability, building trust among consumer is very important to enhance the market pull. Then the public procurement system, because there are some example where where decentralized PDS system is linked with school feeding program. Here we have midday meal program. So whether there is a possibility to linking all agroecological or natural farming related products with these existing schemes. Then farmers market is strengthening local heart and all. This is again important. Lots of basically points have come up regarding business model, how they can be developed, because agroecology it is completely a different basically farming system. There are multiple projects. So whether we can develop business model around these multiple cropping system, that means we have to develop cash flow, that means we have to develop marketing plan, that means we have to understand the demand of market and link this with the production system. That is one thing. And similarly, lots of basically points have been basically mentioned about financial product. But we have to be very specific. We need to develop a loan-based model. We have to develop grant-based model where we need to develop loan cum grant model. And there are examples where loan cum grant model worked. Then blended financing model where how much public finance is required or how much private finance is required. There was a point in previous session regarding transition financing, whether some kind of viability gap mechanism can be established for such kind of initiative. And we have to be very precise to basically convince private investor to invest money. If we have business model, definitely we can establish such kind of business framework. Then we are basically, this event is happening in IRMA, it's a management college. So can we develop green managers? How we can develop? Sambu sir is also already working on developing course curricula. Similarly, for public policy, number of management institutes are basically implementing public policy related program. So whether we can link these entrepreneurship model, these agri-business where natural farming or agroecology related farming is there, whether we can link this with the course curricula. There is a need to develop teaching cases around these small, whether micro model or nano model, input side or output side, so that the managers, the budding basically students can be developed. Their brain can be prepared around these new kind of business model. We need to structure the internship program around this for management student. Similarly, for monitoring purpose also, because this agroecology has multiple dimension. So whether the monitoring framework, whether existing indicators will be sufficient, or we need to design new methodology, new indicator to capture evidences around agroecological farming. Then what methodology we can basically adopt to understand the evidences, understand the data, whether quantitative approach where testing of theory is done, or qualitative approach where theoretical framework are basically developed, or maybe mixing these two where one approach is providing input to the another approach. So we need to develop methodologies around agroecology based system. Then private sector, how to engage private sector. Private sector means startup. They are coming up very well in agriculture sector. They are coming up with innovation. They are coming up with technology, and they are very much interested to go in field and work with farmer. How to enable them so that they can work with the farmer, they can develop production cluster, and accordingly financing can be arranged for both a startup as well as maybe farmer group or other basically groups. And maybe lots of work is required for soil health. So all these are my points. Thank you very much.
Thank you. They critically said that we require products of the finance, basically to value chains can finance the scaling up, or the carbon credits can finance, or the savings in fertilizer subsidies can they finance. Can you be able to do that? That's the kind of a possibility. We need to develop business models around that. Other is to build in resources, human and financial. And the third is don't ignore technology. So that's the 3 points he made. I asked my last panelist to tell me quickly what these 5 people have said in a couple of sentences, and then add up what does NCNF do to make this a movement of sorts.
So thank you, Murliji. This is, I feel, very difficult task to me to this summarize expert panelist what said. So yeah, so I think the great learning, the very positive thoughts covering all the challenges in agroecology transition space from the different experts. So Mr. Ajay Jakhar, what I feel is he shared on the convincing the policy makers is a most difficult task, because a lot of he looks the challenges in Punjab related to the intensive incentives to the farmers, which again like the fertilizer incentives, and which the farmers get the fertilizer incentives and use more fertilizer, which is more challenging for agroecology approached transitions. But his idea is the India covers around 700 blocks, and where if we can facilitate like 6 to 7 champion farmers related to the agroecology, which will be with the proofing the ground level of idea of agroecology, natural farming based model will be the great. Bijay sir actually is given very good thought on that what actually is around our country. It's a lot of jumlabaji is happening, but is in real. If you see we need is a kind of political leadership who can look up this whole who is real creator at ground level, especially civil society who is creating. He given example of SRLM, NRLM, and Pradhan and regenerative agriculture program model, which can be creates evidence to many to learn. And he also mentioned the Andhra Pradesh RySS successful model. He also mentioned our NCNF how actually working in terms of giving a collective platform to civil society and multi-stakeholders. So, and most important thing which he bring expertise also nationally on self-help group and gram panchayata and natural farming. And he also mentioned that how GPDP is the DP label work can be bring a lot of positives on agroecology transition. And he also mentioned that very poor resource planning is very important to us to be to sensitize and strengthen bottom-up processes. And he also mentioned that localizing SDG. And localizing SDG again is panchayats and the local cadres give lot of opportunities to work with the gram panchayat and our strengthening of our local cadre. Gayatri ji has stated, we told this is possible, and yeah, but again the CSR actually look and pitch a strategic area. He given the example of how ATECF is contributed on water, and then the government take forward whole the ATECF engagement for on strengthening water initiative. And similar manner, ATECF is contributing, CSR is contributing to the building business model of natural farming. And is one more she given emphasis on how we can sensitize media, how can be more pro research and communication active in terms of this all work what we are doing to be showcase to different people. So this will help us to more be scaling up. Mr. Jay statement actually is for me and hopefully many participants is because we are largely coming from the civil society, and he given very good, he bring the market perspective, which is very important to us, and consumer side. And because what Amul experience actually for in front of us to learn. So and इन्होंने मतलब अगले 20 सालों में जो समस्या होगी, सॉइल हेल्थ अगर डेटोरेट होगी, तो हमारी जो टोटल फूड सिस्टम है वो कितना डेटोरेट होगा, वो कितना कंज्यूमर्स की हेल्थ के ऊपर एक नेगेटिव इम्पैक्ट होगा, उसको लेकर बहुत अच्छे से एक हमको समराइज किया कि कैसे कंज्यूमर लेवल पर एग्रोइकोलॉजी फार्म प्रोड्यूस के डिमांड क्रिएट की जा सकती है. And it's a big opportunity for us to, if we think on this direction. And he also mentioned on how this whole, the cooperative organization, leading cooperative organization across country, 7-8 organizations came together and formed a 3-tier multi-state cooperative with initial 500 share capital, and which going to be a kind of सभी जितनी भी जो भी वैल्यू चेन्स हैं, जो भी फूड आइटम्स हैं, उसमें कैसे पूरे भारत ही नहीं पूरे इंटरनेशनल लेवल पर कैसे इसको एक मार्केट बिल्ड कर सकते हैं. और उन्होंने और भी कहा कि कंज्यूमर में मतलब एक विमेन सेंट्रिक एक जो कहाँ से हमको डिमांड क्रिएट करनी है, वो भी एक बहुत महत्वपूर्ण स्ट्रैटेजिकल जो बात है हम सब लोगों के लिए, और इसको लेकर कैसे हम एक मार्केट बना सकते हैं, इसको लेकर बातचीत की, जो कि हम सब के लिए एक इम्पॉर्टेंट डायरेक्शन है और एक बहुत ही अच्छा होप भी है. और इसी तरह से GIZ विच मिस्टर दीपक शेयर्ड इज इम्पॉर्टेंस ऑन इंटीग्रेशन ऑफ नेचुरल फार्मिंग विद द गवर्नमेंट प्रोग्राम, गवर्नमेंट सिस्टम. ही मेंशन द this NABARD Jiva and TDF model, and also he mentioned the how blended financing and all investment is required and market side. So thank you very much. So I represent NCNF, National Coalition of Natural Farming, and National NCNF is India's largest multi-stakeholder coalition, and we have presence in 23 states and cover around currently around above 1,300 membership with 500 plus partners and 320 active civil society members. Recently I visited 6 states from NCNF chapters, and I was interacting in the same manner that what kind of challenge they are facing to scale natural farming, or especially with the civil society and some of the enabling partners. So we discussed many challenges they are facing in terms of when is related to the how to work with the government, how to convince government partnership, civil society partnership with the government, and some of the small NGOs those looking to support some resources for building models, and some of organizations, established organizations, those are looking to how to document and communicate properly this what work they are doing, and some of the organizations looking comprehensive market solution, what Mr. Jay already told us. So what in NCNF हम जो कर रहे हैं, हम लोग क्योंकि एक बड़ी अपॉर्चुनिटी है हमारे साथ में पूरे भारत में नेचुरल फार्मिंग लैंडस्केप को आइडेंटिफाई करने की, और नेचुरल फार्मिंग लैंडस्केप को हमने डिफाइन भी हम लोग अभी कर रहे हैं कि एक लैंडस्केप क्या हो सकता है, क्योंकि लैंडस्केप एक असेसमेंट है कि करीब 40-50 साल के बाद से हर लैंडस्केप में चेंजेस आते हैं क्रॉपिंग सिस्टम में, क्योंकि वहाँ पर जो एग्रो इकोलॉजी है या जो इन्वायरमेंटल जो कंडीशंस हैं वो चेंज होती हैं। तो उन सब चीज़ों को लेकर हम अगर 20 साल को अगर हम लोग ध्यान में रखकर उस लैंडस्केप को पूरा कैसे रिस्टोर करें और उसको ट्रांसफॉर्म करें नेचुरल फार्मिंग और महिलाओं को केंद्र में रखकर, तो वहाँ पर हमारे पास में सिविल सोसाइटी पार्टनर्स हैं, एफपीओ पार्टनर्स हैं, हमारे पास में मार्केट है, इन्वेस्टर्स हैं, सब जितने भी जो भी पॉसिबल पार्टनर्स हैं उन सबका एक गवर्नेंस हम लोग सेटअप कर सकते हैं और उसके ऊपर फिर हम आगे पूरा उस लैंडस्केप को नेचुरल फार्मिंग और जितने लोग हैं वो कंज्यूमर प्रोडक्शन और जो भी इनेबलर्स हैं उन सबके साथ में लेकर वी कैन हम उसको एक पूरे we can cover almost India with identifying and defining the landscape within NCNF, the partners geography. So thank you very much. Dhanyavad.
Thank you, Pramel. We'll have the last round after the questions, but the questions from the audience, anybody, anything you want to ask?
Yeah, just introduce yourself and be brief.
Hello. Hello, my name is Prerna Agarwal and I am founder of one of our startups which is working on pastoral fibers for thermal and acoustic insulations. And I also come from an ecosystem where we are also working on non-bovine, Bahula Naturals. My friend is sitting here. One of the big challenges that we faced is that most of the responsibility of all of the work that we've been talking about for the past 3 days is put on the farmer or the institutions working on the ground. While the institutions which are actually sitting at the market front and have the potential of controlling the narrative kind of shy away due to market reasons. So what can institutions like an Amul can do to promote these kind of product lines, or some of the prestigious institutions you all are part of? So why is the responsibility always towards the farmer and not towards the institutions which are sitting on the funds? So.
Any more questions? Suggestions, comments? Huh? Okay, whichever way. But just, yeah.
My question is for Ms. Lobo. I just, ma'am, wanted to understand, what sort of strategy or the outlook that philanthropies have for startups that are working towards this agroecological or natural farming transition, because we are struggling to get funds, right? And it would be very nice to hear your views on that. Yeah. Sorry, I forgot to introduce myself. My name is Siddharth Dabi, and I am working with a startup called Center for Grower-Centric Eco-Value Mechanisms. We are based in Ahmedabad at Aga Khan Rural Support Program.
So, question to Jayen Bhai. Kapil, I think everybody knows. He also knows. Okay, namaste. So, it's good that Amul Organic has come. And the problem we realize after having this experience of 35 years, certification standards need to be Indianized. And Amul has definitely can play a role, not only in marketing. You said that you will come up in the certification kind of things. But is there any plan to make certification small farmer-centric, ecology-centric, rather than health-centric, market-centric, consumer-centric? The overall, of course, as you said, that consumers want pesticide-free food. Health is the first concern. But of course, the European consumer, over the last 20 years, we have seen that they have cancer of human body से आगे वो cancer to human earth, Mother Earth के ऊपर भी चले गए हैं वो. तो ये एक यात्रा होगी कंज्यूमर्स को आहिस्ता आहिस्ता. वी नीड टू टेक कंज्यूमर्स फ्रॉम पर्सनल हेल्थ, ह्यूमन हेल्थ टू एनवायरमेंटल हेल्थ, टू फार्मर्स सोसाइटी की जो है उसकी भी हेल्थ की बात करनी पड़ेगी. तो वही यात्रा है. दैट इज अ पैराडिम शिफ्ट इन एग्रो इकोलॉजी रिक्वायर्ड एंड वेयर आई थिंक अमूल कैन प्ले रोल. छोटे किसानों के लिए क्या स्थिति होनी चाहिए, वो उसके ऊपर क्या हम काम करने वाले हैं, तो वो सही समय पे शुरू हो जाए तो आवश्यक होगा.
I also want to ask question. Sorry. My name is Ankit and I am working with the small farm income team. My question is regarding that policy concern which Ajay sir mentioned about that. So as I worked at district level, so the district machinery is blindly following what coming from the state and from the central. So whatever the challenges we are facing on ground, for that there is no space to district level and there is no space to initiate any such intervention. So how we can access spaces where the policy level decisions being taken up, or maybe there are discussion forum. So how should we access those spaces to at least influence the district level execution? So that I wanted to know. Thank you.
Hello everybody, and I am Akriti. I am a social entrepreneur that's working with agro-pastoral communities in the Thar Desert. And my startup is called Bahula Naturals, and we work on non-bovine animal milk. It's a very exciting stage to be sitting with esteemed members of the panel, and especially with somebody from Amul in the panel. So firstly, I believe I would answer that from your end as well. Apologies for that, but it's very unfair to put Amul at the brink of all the challenges that the dairy sector largely focus, and just look at Amul for all the solutions. I believe Amul has definitely set a north star for all the dairy cooperatives, for all the small dairy movements that have initiated in the country. And it definitely holds the responsibility because it has that space. With the pastoral communities across arid and semi-arid regions, and this is a very initiative at the very at the very initial levels, and there are so many challenges that, of course, just as an entrepreneur, somebody coming up in the field, what would be your recommendations for somebody to be prepared for in the coming times, and what would be some most critical challenges that you look at in the dairy and the food, organic food sector in the coming times that everybody should be prepared for?
Hello. Namaste. I am Rohit Vashisht from Himachal Pradesh, and I am working as a senior research fellow in Dr. Y.S. Parmar University and also PhD scholar. So in Himachal Pradesh, we have launched the certification system that we call the Sitara NF, and that is self-certification system, evaluation system, where farmer evaluate themselves and other farmer peer review them, and the ground staff of the agriculture department, they verified their certification system. And actually it is currently very actively working there, and it is very beneficial for farmer because farmer are taking certification from there and going to market and taking benefits. So my question is on to you that why we are not looking for the these kind of solution, and why we are not looking to implement this kind of models in the other states also. Thank you.
Sorry, I'll answer my question. I have to reach Ahmedabad at 6:30 for a flight, so I'll answer and run out. Apologies for that. I can speak for some of the philanthropists that I know and our own foundation. We're agnostic of whether you're a social entrepreneur or a non-profit or what, as long as the work that you're doing is designed to solve actual problems that farmers are facing, and they have the ability to scale. I think these are two things that most philanthropists would look at before investing or not.
So to the specific question about district level planning, so I think central government is giving money for centrally sponsored schemes where there's a state puts in some share of their resources and central government gives a certain share of resources. It is up to the state government to decide which schemes will they invest in. So it is not up to the central government that you have to do what the union government is telling you. It is the state's prerogative of how they use their limited resources, and that's one point. The other point is that how do you talk about policy? You can pray about it because the officer sitting in the district collectorate, he doesn't have time. See, they're understaffed everywhere in the country. These DC offices are understaffed. They have hundreds of responsibilities. And जो area crop plan बनता है, district plan, पहले district plans बनते थे, I don't even know if district plans are made anymore in the country. So you have to just reach out to them again and again. I have no solution, but I can only tell you that the state does not have to follow what the central government is saying. They have a choice, and their choices they are using the money for is giving free electricity, giving freebies, free bus rides and all that stuff. So when you do all that stuff, your money supply becomes less for these centrally sponsored schemes. And the other thing that happens is that if you don't give a utilization certificate for a particular scheme for the money that you received in a preceding year, you will not be able to tap into funds in the following year. So that also limits the amount of money states are able to tap into it. And many states even have a governance failure in the sense that they can't even utilize all the centrally sponsored scheme money available because their documentation is not good, because they've not delivered on investing their part of the money into the program. But you'll have to just reach out to the officers. There's no other way to do it. And you just got to figure out exactly which officer is dealing with which department or which silo is being looked after which person. I know it doesn't answer your question, but this is the landscape of district level policy. It happens at the state capital. It won't happen at the DC level.
Okay, thank you so much. I think very good questions. I'll reply in the order of questions being asked. Ma'am, to answer your question, yes, we are trying to build a portfolio of the products. My colleague Nimit, who heads organic, has put a kiosk outside to showcase some of the products that we have launched. But in any case, we would like to be in every single item which we consume in our households, but not the perishable ones to begin with. But at least the atta, dal, chawal, we'll be launching sugar, organic good, organic chai, and the rest of the stuff. So there is a challenge both sides. I mean, consumers have to be prepared, but that's one part of it. But also to get the kind of inputs that we want and the way we want to do it. But we are working on it. Tamara prashna jawab sahib, it's a good question. There are two ways to look at it. We are right now focused only on organic, and that's why we need to follow these steps on organic. The vision which has been given to us is that we have to be global in approach. Focus is India, focus is Indian consumer, focus is Indian market, but the standards should be global standards. So, which means the level of preparation from day one itself is with that vision and with that target in mind. So, having said that, we're trying to go around the NPOP, PGS, the routes, how to go about doing it, how to involve the small farmers and all that. So, Amul model comes in handy because we are a small farmers based organization. So, if 36 lakh farmers, we collect 300 lakh liters every day in 18,600 villages. Milk comes in twice a day. Every single milk is tested and processed and variety of products and all that. So obviously that learning will come in to help. And that's why we will go about doing it. NDDB, of course, is the chief promoter of this. So they also have a wealth of experience working in replicating this model across the country. And together we will evolve systems which will definitely benefit the small farmer. And that is what is the objective of this entire thing. So I agree with you. Talking about the environment part of it and talking about the soil part of it. There it's a responsibility of all of us and not just one organization focused only on organic. Talking about dairy, we are talking about now circular economy. We are talking about how do we use the gobar. How do you use the dung to produce methane, which will run a chula, it can run a biogas car, bio-CNG car. And even if you want to take steps further, I mean, I was in Japan last month and we saw hydrogen, clean green hydrogen being produced out of methane. So CH4 ko aapne break kiya, you get hydrogen and you can do wonderful things with it. So India, and what left behind is a bioslurry which goes back as a chemical, a substitute of chemical fertilizer. And so everybody is happy. India imports fuel, India imports fertilizers. That bill comes down. Farmer is happy. Cow gives milk only 300 days in a year. That's the lactation cycle. Dung comes in every day. Farmer makes income out of that dung. Okay, and obviously planet is happy, the consumers are happy, and the economy is also happy. So this is what we are doing, and not just doing, talking, demonstrating it also by doing it on a very large scale. So we are looking at and taking care of the environment part of it and our contribution to supporting the SDGs, as you may call it. Okay, moving ma'am to your question. First thing is branding. जब तक आपने कैमल या गोट नहीं बोला तब तक मुझे समझ में नहीं आया आप क्या काम करते हैं. So why do you say non-bovine milk? You say I am in business of collecting camel milk, business of marketing yak milk, business of doing goat milk. Niche is in. People are moving out of mass. People want niche. And niche means you can play the space of premiumization also. Okay, Amul works in a different way because we do mass customization. I mean, we sell large quantity of products. Everybody thinks it's my brand, it's my product, it's made for me. And that's how the brand has been able to play that to a large audience. But if you are a new player and you want to create that, and obviously you don't have advertising budgets, which Amul of course also does not have, but you have to play on the niche game. And this is where which will make a big difference into it. Be proud of what you are. Try to identify what is the key component out of that. For us, we do, as I mentioned, 300 lakh liters of milk every day. But for doing that journey of 5,000 liters of camel milk per day over the last 5 years, it's been a very, very difficult task. Okay, but then you know you are making a difference to the life of so many camel herders way back in the Kutch region. And now the prices of camel have gone up. The output is now getting standardized. Okay, we have to follow a very rigorous process of testing it and all that stuff. But I remember a case when a colleague of mine, whose father was not well and some down with cancer and all that, and she said that I want goat milk and find out goat milk. And they were willing to pay any price for it. Okay. So this is the power of niche. This is the power of the benefits of this. And you highlight the, like the diabetes, the anti-diabetic properties of camel milk, you therapeutic properties of goat milk, maybe some other properties of yak milk, maybe tastier because they make butter and have it with the tea up there in Tibet and all that. So these are the things you should, it's premium. No, that's what I'm saying. So that is where you command that kind of as the edge, and then people will come looking for your products. See, selling it was difficult. It's difficult for us also. If I put a camel milk product on a retail shelf in a general trade, there will be no customers for it because it's such a large country and you don't find consumers everywhere. But yesterday only I was looking at the data, and there is one customer in Calcutta who has bought 32,000 rupees worth of camel milk in the last 3 months. तो और regularly हर हफ्ता 10 दिन में उसका एक order आता है. So this is part of e-commerce. I mean, you leverage it. We run our own e-commerce bot only for this, that you are able to get into that niche space. And then every liter of that 5,000 liters becomes very valuable and very important. So all the best to you. More power to you.
This certification, self-certification and sales, there's a rule in the country, I was told, is it up to 12 lakh per farmer. You don't require any of this. Self-certification is sufficient. Government says, rules are saying, the institution can do up to 50 lakhs turnover. You don't require certification. So there's a rule. So one can tap that, but you have to reach out to the last consumer, not to sell to intermediary sellers. As long as you're reaching to the last consumer, you can do that. So there's a possibility, and most farmers are already doing this. It's not that it is not being done. That's the way they are doing it already. That rule is what is allowing them to do that. Okay. We'll just take the last questions. Last question to my panelists. to wind up, before I ask each one to say, मुझे लगता है, based on the discussions, ये possible है. This vision is possible. मुमकिन है. We shall overcome all the constraints and we will be able to achieve this. But we have, all of us have a role in this. All of us have a role in this. Being a natural farming, Amrit Swaraj. No, this is what we are expected to know. But we require a plan. We require a Bombay plan. But we need to develop that. Plan will not be there just like that. We need to develop that. We should play a hand in developing the plan, handing over to the people who buy quote unquote, and then we start playing our roles. So Bharat has the will and Bharat has a way. Bharat has a way. And we have just 2-3 examples. We already agreed. Maybe in another month we will sign. Amul and RySS will sign an agreement. So a lot of the produce, if everything works well, ready market, ready buyer, and our farmers will probably get say, now that the market is clear, they want to produce more. They want to produce more. I was struggling with him, can you agree on a fair plan? But we'll agree on some plan. But we'll go forward. Similarly, NCNF has come. They said they'll do entire country. 15 lakh farmers are there, 15 crore farmers are there. If they do start with 1 crore also in the coming 2 to 3 years, it is going to be a big item, big way forward. It is going to be more than the current 20% GDP. If you do all organic, it's possible that will become 40%. GDP is going to double if you become a natural farming country. So that's a possibility. But therefore I ask last question to you, sir, half a minute each. Half a minute each is, the question is very simple. Why are you confident? I am confident, but why are you confident that this will happen?
On the presumption that we are all confident, it will happen over time because we will run out of resources. We will run out of, see, for example, Punjab, you will have, it's not that you will not have groundwater. Somebody today said groundwater will run out in 2030. It's not going to run out. But we will not be able to use those resources economically for production. So if you're drawing water from 800 feet, the cost of drawing that water will make farming itself on tube well water unproductive. So I'm just saying, when you say run out of resources means that run out of resources in a way that you can make economic profit out of it, of that practice. So that's going to be one of the great trigger points, I think.
I have to give a long answer or short answer?
Short answer. 1 minute.
Everybody is aware of I don't know. It's a last line of a story. Murli, correct me if I'll have to give a long answer if people don't respond. मुझे धक्का किसने मारा?
You know, yeah, okay. Somebody has fallen into the well, yeah.
So as I mentioned that GIZ is supporting Jiva program where we are working with 24 projects in a pilot phase in 11 states, and first Kharif basically production has been done and detailed planning has been done for Kharif basically planning with all 8-9 different components. So what experience we are getting from the field is basically very encouraging as per the basically farmers basically input, and they are very much basically encourage and motivate to take these activity forward. So these are very initial feedback that we are receiving, and based on these feedback and definitely with support of organization like RySS. RySS has created, I think most of the people will be knowing that RySS has created cadre of community resource person on natural farming, and they are visiting various states to train lead farmers, build their capacities. And we also basically collaborated with RySS where 30 external farmer resource person have been deployed in various locations, and feedback is very good. So based on this, I can say that it will work, and maybe in 2-3 years we will definitely get very good results. Yeah.
So NCNF strength is the large partnership base and large presence across country. And partnership based is coming from different expert institutions, individual philanthropists, and which all bring together a value to make it possible. Thank you.
And I'm confident because there is no other way. Thank you very much.
So thank you very much, Muralidhar, for moderating a very interesting discussion on deepening and scaling of natural farming across the country. I also would like to thank Shri Jayen Mehta, Ajay Vir Jakhar, Gayatri, Deepak Chamola, Pramel, Gupta, and Mr. Vijayanand to have joined online. We have a very brief valedictory session. We're not going to make it long. So what we'll do is request Richa Kumar to come and share with all of us what we've heard in the last, 3 days. It's been a very intensive, exhaustive kind of conference. We started sometimes at 7:30 or 6:30 in the morning and even gone on till 8:39. So Richa, please do come and share a few ideas on what was discussed and possibly some directions on how we can take it forward.
The distinguished panel on the stage. I'm Richa Kumar. I'm an associate professor at IIT Delhi and also part of the network of rural and agrarian studies. And before I begin the conclusion, I'd like to give at least the panel on the stage a brief background about the NRAS, the Network of Rural and Agrarian Studies, that was started in 2010 at a point when the rural was sort of out of the imagination of pretty much everyone, especially the mainstream. And if people thought of the rural, the only word was suicides. And it's very heartening to note that now after all of these years, it's the new buzzword around the rural is startups, and there are so many of them. Traversing the last decade with the NRAS, which is basically a group of academics, activists, scholars, students, journalists, civil society organizations, who've been working, studying, understanding the rural and agrarian space and how it has transformed in the last 50, 60, 70 years. We've organized in the last decade 7, 8 conferences, especially in non-metro cities in the country. The aim of the network has been to involve scholars from rural backgrounds in particular to study their own issues, their own problems. We've had mentoring workshops. Our workshops have been in places like Chidambaram in Tamil Nadu, Bhopal, Gandhinagar, Bhubaneswar, Allahabad, and we've engaged with state universities in these places. But in the last decade, while there has been growing research and interest in the rural, and I think the farm protests caught everybody's imagination, which is also, stubble burning is another issue that has caught people's imagination, that has brought the rural into the focus. As Professor Vasavi outlined, she's been our main mentor in the NRAS. She was the ex-dean of NIAS, the National Institute of Advanced Study. We've had several crises that have now become even more urgent. Of course, the climate crisis that we're all aware of, but there is a serious crisis of livelihoods in many parts of the country. Amul is an excellent example of small and marginal farmers, women farmers in particular, getting access to a certain kind of livelihood pathway. But in many other parts of the country, things are very, very grave, including in Punjab, although I think Jakharji is perhaps had to leave to catch a flight. Amul is an excellent example of small and marginal farmers. Women farmers in particular getting access. I think that's my voice echoing back to me, perhaps. Right. So, on top of the existing climate crisis and the crisis of livelihoods, some of the additional issues that emerged in the last 3 days, especially around the frame of crises, was that as the world is moving to resolve some of these issues, we are seeing increasing extractive relationships with the rural. So for instance, there were presentations talking about how renewable energy sites now across the country are actually possible ways of land grabbing. Rural people are losing access to land, land which may be land for pastoralists in particular is considered wasteland and is now being, wind energy, solar energy plants. There are increasing kind of conflicts with people in rural areas. all of the enthusiasm that you have in urban India for electric vehicles, it is all built on lithium-ion batteries, and lithium mining is becoming a very, very extractive enterprise globally. And so as we are trying to resolve some of these crises, newer crises are developing because the relationships between the urban and the rural haven't really been transformed yet. Just to quickly take us back to the report that we released today, which is the Gujarati translation of the State of Rural and Agrarian India report, which was originally, it came out in 2020. Some of the issues that were highlighted in the report are still very, very important and prominent today in terms of dealing with these crises. And I'll highlight just 3 of them. One is the continued emphasis on the individual farmer as the sole person to engage with, either by the state or by civil society, or by technology startups, or by market entrepreneurs or market players. And while we are realizing that a lot of the agroecological based transformations that are required in this space need collective transformations of landscapes and collective work across people and cannot be done by individual farmers alone, especially the large majority of small and marginal farmers in the country. The other emphasis has been that a lot of the technology and market players in this space are still working with dominant models of agriculture. They are unable to figure out how to work with diverse agroecological models. And in that specifically, one of the other large themes that emerged from the last 3 days was the need for very consciously trying to bring in issues of social justice into discussions of agroecology. The assumption that agroecological models or alternative models will automatically be socially just or bring on board lenses of gender, caste, class, and diversity may not necessarily play out, and a lot of conscious thinking and efforts will need to happen, especially in new startups and new market players who are emerging in the rural space, to not cement and reinforce existing hierarchies that already exist in these places in terms of access to resources like land, water, energy, and the rest of it. I'll just throw in a very quick, brief example from our own country historically. We have often praised agroecological or eco-friendly water harvesting measures in our country. So for example, tank irrigation in southern India, or the Ahar pine system in Bihar, as good models that we should try and go back to or try and adopt in terms of the irrigation landscape. But we must remember that these models were built based on exploitative caste-based labor relations, and the people who had the knowledge, the praxis, the skills to make these models, to maintain them, did not have the right to own land and were not allowed to actually farm and gain the benefits from the work that they did on an equal footing with other groups of people in these places. And so recognizing very consciously hierarchies across communities, recognizing hierarchies across the global scale, especially historically in terms of colonialism and its legacies, all of these are very consciously required as we try and build models for this alternative space. And the third very big question that has emerged, and there was a lot of discussion on this in the last 3 days, 2 special optional sessions that were put together were on this discussion that Vijayanand ji also referred to, was the organic farming, natural farming sort of debate. What are the nomenclatures? How do we go beyond this? And as Tyagi ji mentioned in the earlier session, as Vijayanand ji said, as Kapil Bhai mentioned, several others have said, it's really important for people within this alternative space to come together, because there are bigger players to contend with, bigger battles to be fought, bigger battles against, how do we engage with ICAR and mainstream scientific institutions to look at agriculture differently? How do we engage with large monopolies and oligopolies within the agrarian space in terms of ownership of knowledge, seeds, inputs, as well as markets? The big 4, but we have a lot of Indian companies now joining the big 4, that is the, whether it's the ABCDs or the buyers or the Chem Chinas and the other giants of the world. We must figure out ways to consolidate the fledgling efforts that are there, that we have seen in the last 3 days in terms of civil society, academia, governments, as well as other partners, to see how we can actually engage with the real mainstream to consider some of these issues more seriously. And finally, I will lay out 3 agenda items that I was able to glean together, put together in terms of what could be the next set of ideas that people associated with the NRES could in fact study, research, and work on. The first is new measures of value. Of course, we all agree we have to go beyond income and productivity, but it is still a challenge in terms of how do we define, evaluate, understand, measure, and bring into the mainstream ways to understand energy pathways, ways to understand water use, try and measure ecosystem services, the material throughput or material intensity of the kinds of work we are doing, biodiversity. How do we in fact help mainstream scientific institutions to incorporate new measures of value in the way agriculture and the rural are evaluated, including the work of artisans, for instance. How do we understand and revalue what they might be doing is a very, very important research agenda that it should be our primary agenda in the next few years. The second is to very critically understand what are the existing models that are working currently today at multiple scales. So that includes understanding what individual farmers may be doing, but also what large programs like the Odisha Millet Mission might be able to accomplish. Also what CSOs are working, what kind of financing models work, what kind of technology and startup ideas are actually able to make a difference on the ground, but not just understand them in terms of what's working, but also critically look at them and see, can they address questions of social and epistemic justice? Otherwise, we may be able to heal the metabolic rift, we may be able to actually figure out how humans and nature can actually work together, but in terms of the hierarchies within human society, we may do nothing to actually address that. And finally, this kind of research has been done in the past, but I think it certainly needs to continue and be strengthened, is what Ajay Jakhar ji said, documenting failure. So, problem with existing mainstream logics. We need to not only understand the Green Revolution and its ill effects, but also new interventions, say technologies in terms of the spread, for example, of plastic across rural areas. What are the implications of some of that? What are the implications of community hierarchies in terms of access to markets? So a lot of these issues in terms of mainstream logics need to be interrogated and studied. And broadly, I have tried to very, very briefly summarize the large set of issues that emerged over the last 3 days. One thing that also emerged, and that's the thought I would like to leave you at the end with, is that young people are leaving farming. They don't want to come back to farming. And the rural is increasingly, even now, seen as redundant and meaningless. So how can we, in fact, work along with all the different people that we have here, as well as people within rural spaces and urban spaces? I think it's very important to get consumers and urban folks back into this picture to make the rural meaningful again, so that the rural is no longer as a residual, farming is no longer seen as something that is undesirable, and how do we make it socially acceptable again? I'll leave you with these thoughts. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Richa, for trying to put together some key ideas that have come and issues that hopefully all of us as a community can engage with in the coming few months and years. It's now my pleasure to, share with you a vote of thanks for a very engaging, exhaustive, and exhausting to some of us conference over the last 3 days. So I'd like to first start with thanking all you presenters and panelists for having taken time off to be part of this event in a physical form over the last 3 days. I remember we started pretty late in, for an international conference, doing it in June, July is when we were kind of ready. And when we shared the concept note with the organizing committee, I think there was a lot of apprehension. Log aayenge ki nahi aayenge? So it's almost an adage now that when academics fail, civil society solves the problem. So if we've had, a case, an interesting case where we've had 108 papers and 45% of all these papers have come from non-academic audience, from development practitioners. And it's very important for academia to listen to these voices even as they pick ideas from other sources, from journals, books, etc. But thank you so much for all of you for having taken the trouble to be here physically, and thank you so much for putting up with the regular taunts that me and some of us have had, asking you to stick to deadlines, go through the processes of, sending an abstract. Some of you have probably presented a paper for the first time in a conference of this kind. It required a little bit of push, but you have all been outstanding. It's been a great pleasure to have people right from the mid-20s to people in the mid-70s and even more to be part of this conference. So this is a remarkable tribute to all of your, efforts. And I think the spirit of hospitality and generosity has been very high. Many people volunteered to pay their own costs to come here, and that solved a lot of problems for us with regard to finance. And you had offered to do so. So we really appreciate that effort so that we could support others who couldn't come. The conference has been meant to be as inclusive as possible. So while we had to reject a few papers, it was very nice to get responses from people when we told that you can still join this conference even if your paper has not been accepted. So I thank many of them, and many of them who were not even part of this exercise, forgot to send a paper, but still wanted to come in. We're very grateful to all of you to have joined us, and your contribution has made this conference very rich. So a big thank you to all of you. Thanks to Bharat Bhushan Tyagi ji for accepting our invitation very readily, and importantly being with us for all these 3 days. So it was easy for him to give his keynote address and then head away elsewhere. I think he has been around, willing to spend time. Many of us have had an opportunity to discuss with him and learn from his tremendous wisdom. That's the only word that I can use, which is way beyond what you can get in academic institutions. So Bharat Bhushan Tyagi ji, बहुत-बहुत धन्यवाद आपको यहाँ आने, और हम चाहते हैं कि आप दोबारा आए और साथ मिलकर काम भी करें. So there are many people who've been behind this, so I'd like to start with the organizing committee. There's one organizing committee in IRMA, but it's a broader kind of organizing committee which also included members from NRAS, so Dr. Vasuvi, Vijay Shankar, and Richa. And within IRMA, we had, Professor Preeti Priya, Hipu Nathan, Manzoor Akram, Sunil Sangwan, and Deborah Datta. So all of us had a tough time, going through the abstracts and aligning our responses so that we have similar kinds of responses and doing all the reviews. So thanks a lot to the organizing committee for making this happen. We've had a conference committee, and I think IRMA is getting better with time in organizing such conferences, and I'd like to thank our director for setting up processes in place so that we could have these conference committees. So we have a few of the members here. Saurabh Prajapati is also a member of the organizing committee. Shivansh is here. And is anybody else here? I'm missing the name, so please convey our sincere thanks to all the conference committee, and of course our director for fully supporting this idea right from the start and creating a culture so that, we want people to come to IRMA. And what has been fascinating, a bit of a surprise, is that many of you are coming to IRMA for the first time. You've been here in this space for maybe 20, 30 years. We'd like you to visit the campus more often, and as you've seen, this is a great place to have the conversations which you cannot have in Delhi, Mumbai, and other kinds of places. So thank you all for all of that. This conference wouldn't have been possible without a few special people, and I'd like to invite all of them to come and join us. So let me start with the Small Farm Incomes team. Abhishek Saxena, please come in front. Yeah, Saurabh and, Shivansh, you can all come. Please come up and stand right here. So I'll call names, and if there are volunteers who are there, you can also join. So Abhishek has been a strong source of support, always reminding me when I've been goofing off in the last few months. And, he's agreed to delay his PhD by a few months just for this conference. So thanks a lot, Abhishek, for the effort. And we wish you all the very best for your completion of your PhD. Anish Mohan, where is he? So, Anish has, of course, been there for many other things as well. All of you have had a chance to meet up with him and, during the field visit and other kinds of work as well. Ankit Kumar, who's helped us, please come. With all the accommodation and other issues. Shubha Kadke, please join us. You joined the team late, but you've been a great source of support. Asmita and Sonal. Asmita is sorting out travel issues, so she's probably not here. And Sonal Chowdhury. And any of the volunteers here from IRMA? Okay. So I'd like you all to give a big round of applause to all these amazing people here. Yes, come. Please come, Lalita. So we had volunteers from, maybe I can also join them when you take a photograph. Thank you very much. So of course I would be failing in my duty if I didn't mention the support of the Ford Foundation in making all this conference possible. I think it's the silent support of a philanthropic donor which has made our task easier. If we had to do fundraising at the same time for this conference, it would have been an extremely difficult task. We'd like to sincerely thank Ford Foundation for their consistent support to all the events of the Network of Rural and Agrarian Studies, I think right from almost the first event onwards. Unfortunately, Subrat and Reshma couldn't join us today, but we will convey this in person next week. So with these words, I'd like to bring the conference to a close. There's some news for all of you. Amul has put up a small stall outside of their organic products. And I'm told for all conference participants, there's a special 12% discount. So please go and have a look at it. And then please join us for tea and snacks at ETDC. Thank you all very much. And I hope none of you miss your flights on your way back.